Say what? We got
pride, purpose, power.
you got
Pride, purpose, power.
I got
Pride, purpose, power.
we got
Pride, purpose, power.
you got
Pride, purpose, power.
I got
Pride, purpose, power.
we got
Pride, purpose, power.
say what? I have pride.
I have pride.
I have purpose.
I have purpose.
I have power.
I have power.
Say what?
What you
I have pride.
I have pride.
I have purpose.
I have purpose.
I have power.
I have power.
Say what? We got
Pride, purpose, power.
you got
Pride, purpose, power.
I got
Pride, purpose,
we got
pride, purpose, power.
you got I got we got say what? I have pride. I have purpose. I have power. Say what? I have pride. I have purpose. I have power. Say what? We got you got I got we got you got I got we got say what? I have pride. I have purpose. I have power. Say what? I have pride. I have purpose. I have power. Say what? We got you got I got we got you got I got we got say what? I have pride. I have purpose. I have power. Say what? I have pride. I have purpose. I have power. Say what?
Hi. Hello. Happy Love Day and welcome to day 3 of Black Girl Freedom Week. I'm so excited to be here with you all. My name is Solace. My pronouns are they, them, and she, her interchangeably. Currently, I am speaking with you all from Brooklyn, New York on Muncie Lenape and Canarsie lands. At G4GC, I am data analyst. So talk to me about all things data, about all things economics, about all things investments, and I am here. So what are we doing today? This is a part of Black Girl Freedom Week, which is hosted by the 1 Billion for Black Girls campaign and Black Girl Freedom Fund, an initiative at Grantmakers for Girls of Color. This week showcases what is possible when we abundantly invest in the dreams, power, joy, and leadership of Black girls, femmes, and gender-expansive youth, and work together to co-create a future where they are safe, they are free, they are thriving, and of course, that they feel loved. This week has been so incredible. 2 of my highlights have been when Ava reminded us all that in all of our color and in all of our brightness, we bring so much to this world. And when MJ, during the economic justice panel, reminded us to build bridges, not single-man towers. If you missed either of these panels or any of the other offerings during this week, they're up on the G4GC YouTube channel and the 1 Billion for Black Girls website for rewatch. Let's get into some housekeeping. I would love to introduce you all to our wonderful ASL interpreters, Andrea Lust and Brenda Terry. Let's give them a huge round of applause. Don't worry, I hear you all cheering from your screens. Today's session will be recorded, so all of the good feelings and wisdom that you hear, don't worry, you'll be able to rewatch. And of course, we have our daily giveaway. So if you haven't already, please register in the link in the video description. And today we want to make sure you're here, you're ready, you're not a robot. So please type in freedom in the chat so we know that you're ready, you're warm, and you're prepared for everything happening on this day 3. So, what's the lineup for today? We have a wonderful panel called Reproductive Justice or Nothing, the fight for bodily autonomy and freedom. The speakers and moderator today will be the brilliant Loretta J. Ross, Ashley Spivey, Lola Bell Bunch, and Pony White. But first, we'll have a wonderful love letter from Beulah Osweke. So I will pass this over to Beulah to get the day started and learn from all the wisdom today. Please enjoy.
My Black girl freedom dream is that Black girls and young femmes across the globe recognize that the limitations placed on them are lies and unjust. I hope that they'll be able to sever whatever person, place, or thing does not fully serve them, and that they'll intimately know their worth and potential, that they'll be surrounded with the support needed to exceed their highest aspirations.
And I've been asked to, to be the moderator of this panel and give a brief overview of reproductive justice. I'm one of the people who helped co-create the theory of reproductive justice in 1994. There were 12 Black women who did this work together collectively. And currently I'm a professor at Smith College. Now you might be wondering exactly what is reproductive justice that these Black feminists created. We found that we were impatient and unfulfilled by the artificial pro-choice, pro-life framework that surrounds every debate on abortion. And when we centered ourselves in the lens, we wanted to talk about what we needed. And what we needed, first of all, was to join with our pro-choice sisters and fight for the right to use birth control and have an abortion or practice abstinence if we could. But because we were Black women, we also had to fight all the stereotypes about Black women concerning our reproduction. The fact that people accuse us of having too many kids or all our kids are on welfare are criminals. So the second tenet of reproductive justice is the right to have the children that you want to have and under the conditions that you want to have them. And this means using a midwife or a doula or refusing an unnecessary cesarean section. And then the third tenet of reproductive justice is the one that's probably the most inclusive, because once the child is born, we have the human right to raise our children in safe and healthy environments. And of course, this brings into the conversation things like poor schools, gun violence, the lack of clean drinking water, the lack of adequate housing or transportation, the food deserts, all of these things that aren't necessarily seen as issues dealing with reproduction actually do affect how well our children thrive. And so then, 10 years after we created the original framework in 1994, Sister Song's Queer People of Color Caucus decided to add a fourth tenet, and that's the right to bodily autonomy, gender identity, and sexual pleasure. So that's the reproductive justice framework in totality. The right to have children, the right not to have children, the right to raise your children in safe and healthy environments, and then the right to your gender identity, healthy sexuality, bodily autonomy. So after having said that, I'm going to introduce my fellow co-panelists so that we can have a discussion about reproductive justice and Black women. Our first panelist is Lola Bell Bunch, who's with I Be a Black Girl. Our second panelist is Pani White, who's an advocate for Girls for Gender Equity. And our third panelist is Ashley Spivey, who's the executive director of I Be a Black Girl, but actually at the Capitol testifying right now. So we hope she'll be able to join us in time. And so, first of all, I want to throw a question out here. For each of you, can you introduce yourself and what organization you work with, and what was your first introduction to the term reproductive justice, and why did this framework work for you? I'm going to go to Lola Bell first.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lola Bell. I'm a future midwife and emerging designer. Um, my fashion company is Brown Girl Vibes. I have the honor of being on this panel on behalf of IB Black Girl, which I'm super excited about. The term reproductive justice means to me that women have the right to choose and make decisions over their own body and the well-being without feeling shamed about it. Women should be able to be safe and have a safe space where reproductive justice can be a comfortable topic of discussion and have a full protection over their own rights. Every woman deserves the autonomy to make decisions over their own body, no matter what. So that's what reproductive justice means to me.
Now I'm going to turn to Pani. Tell us, what was your first introduction to the term reproductive justice, and why did this framework call to you?
Hi, I'm Pony White, and I am with Girls for Gender Equity, and also a policy and advocacy consultant, I should say, and a storyteller. And for me, reproductive justice felt inclusive of who I am as a person existing in the world. And when I was learning first about the gender justice movement, there were often times in undergrad where I felt like I was like constantly being like, but what about Black women? But like that wouldn't actually apply to me, but that doesn't have anything to do with me. But I wouldn't like the women I grew up around, my mother wouldn't be advocating for that. She'd be advocating for something completely different. So I felt like it was constantly me kind of going back and forth with folks that I felt like I'm supposed to be in community with you. Like we're supposed to be fighting for the same things, but somehow I feel left out. And I think throughout when I was about 18, is when my mentor, Dana Bizignani, kind of pointed out the framework to me and was like, read this, stay updated with this person. And that just really opened my eyes, and I really felt like, okay, great. Like now I feel like there's so much work to do here, and I don't feel like I'm reinventing the wheel by being like, let's talk about Black women, because there are amazing Black women like yourself who have been doing this for us forever. So yeah.
You. And Ashley, are you able to join us? Because I'd like to hear your first introduction to the term reproductive justice.
Yes, and hopefully my internet works well. As you mentioned, Miss Loretta at the Capitol in Lincoln about to testify. I just want to say first that I have so much gratitude to be on the panel with each of you and really appreciate all the work that y'all are doing and the trailblazing, especially that you set for folks like me, Miss Loretta. My first introduction to reproductive justice was just coming into my own body and self, right? Like trying to understand what my experience was with the world and what did that look like. And not always feeling like I had the words or understanding to reconcile that. And so just through my journey of self and my work around movement building, I really started to look to what frameworks can help me articulate what I was feeling and not really sure, like, right, like what was that path? And for me, that's reproductive justice. Like reproductive justice is one of the guideposts for IB Black Girl. It's how we do our work. It's how we show up. It embeds our work of beloved community, of anti-racist and abolitionist frameworks. Like RJ is all of those things. And so I would say it's my everything and all. Once you know it, you can't forget it or divorce it. And so thank you for being able to set that frame together for us in this work.
Well, thank you. Now we're going to drill down and ask more specific questions. Lola Bell, can you share more about your own passion for prenatal and birthing care for Brown and Black women and girls? Where did that passion come from?
Yes, of course. That passion came from my family. I had the experience to be in the birthing room when my baby cousin was being born. So my aunt was giving birth, and my aunt had a midwife and a doula. And it was such an amazing experience that I was able to be in that room with her. I I've witnessed the pattern of brown and Black women not being taken care of properly in both hospitals and clinics. And I want to be a part of the solution where Black and brown women can receive equitable care. because that's just very important to me. And as a future midwife, I want to be able to provide the best care for Black and Brown women no matter what. I want to show that even though we are Black and Brown, we deserve the best care as well, just as everyone else. And you said my passion comes from wanting to see us thrive and change the world for all women who look like me and for all the generations to come.
Thank you. Keep that passion going, girl. That's what sustains us through the hard times and brings us joy. Connie, now you were a part of a group of young people at Girls for Gender Equity, CGE. We remember Black Youth for Reproductive Freedom. When you formed the reproductive justice freedom agenda, combating sexual violence was at the core of it. Can you talk about why you choose to emphasize and include violence and safety? And what were some of those demands that y'all made?
Yeah, so when we think about sexual violence, we know that it's a system of power and control, and that system generally tends to impact the most marginalized identities the worst. So for Black women, Black girls, Black gender forming young people, they're at the intersection of a lot of this harm and this violence that we see happen. They're at the intersection where sexual violence is prevalent in our communities. And it's sometimes a tale as old as time where somebody or yourself or your mother or your auntie, someone in our community has been impacted by sexual violence. So it was super important for us as we were creating and crafting our demands and as we were diving into the history of reproductive justice for us to uplift this, because that was also a very pivotal point in the reproductive justice movement. And so we wanted to uplift it and bring it back to center. And some of the demands that we made, we have a 15-point plan. There was 6 of us that authored the memo, and I always like to shout them out because everybody did their own thing and had their own chapters. And a couple of our demands was the end of all criminalization of reproductive choices for all birthing people and for medical providers, and also to provide mandatory evidence-based training about culturally conscious and affirming and inclusive care for medical providers and anyone that comes in contact with our communities. And so again, those are things that supersede not just sexual violence, but also state-sanctioned violence that, again, our communities have historically been targeted and been victims of this. So yeah, I think that was why it was so important for us to center sexual violence and prevention in our memo.
Well, I'm certainly gratified by that. I entered Black feminism by becoming the first of the executive director of the first rape crisis center in this country. So thank you. Now let's turn to Ashley again. There's a number of polls and data that show that reproductive rights, abortion, and issues related to reproductive justice are key motivators for young voters, women, and gender expansive people. Can you talk about the advocacy work at IBVG and why is it critical to engage Black girls in our democratic processes, and how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is such a great question. I think for us, we understand that policy has been weaponized against communities of color, specifically Black community. And so folks don't see themselves in this work, right? Like they feel like they don't want to vote, that the elected officials are not listening to them, rightfully so. Like the system was intentionally crafted that way. And so for us, a major key component of our reproductive justice approach is in policy and advocacy. So it's really about making the inaccessible accessible. How can we make sure that Black women, femmes, and girls are at the center of policy and how it's crafted? And that we're not leading with policy, but the solutions were already crafted in community, and that policy codifies what we know to be true happening on the ground. And so that's one way in which we make sure, one, that folks see themselves in the policy work, and then trying to be that liaison with people. So, right, like if there's a hearing, helping to pay gas cards, childcare, lost wages, so folks can come and testify, making sure that folks have the facts about bills. How do they reach out to their senators? We do a legislative day. We do a Black Girls Leading Advocacy Day, which is coming up in April. So especially like the young folks, like I feel really confident that the world is in good hands as we pass the torch to folks like Lola. And so making sure that they have the space and guardrails to like explore what their advocacy looks like. What are the tools that you need to be successful, and us not telling them what that looks like, but really making sure that they have space to explore and create their own perspective around their leadership. And so we're really excited that we get to do that. We're focused on areas around abortion. We know that there is a 12-week abortion ban here. So what does that mean to mobilize folks around bodily autonomy and access to abortion care? We are seeing extreme cases around SNAP and EBT benefits here, housing. I mean, like to your point, Ms. Loretta, about the pillars, the environment in which we live absolutely makes a difference for how we show up and what we're able to actualize for our lives. And so our goal is to reclaim Black political power in order to do that using policies as one of those levers.
Well, thank you. I know I stand on the shoulders of Billie Avery, who was the founder of the National Black Women's Health Project, now the Black Women's Health Imperative. And she, of course, stands on the shoulders of Mary McLeod Bethune and others, Black women who have stood up to make sure that we were treated as full human beings with human rights. Now I'm going to ask some general questions. What is the intergenerational nature of this work? How do folks across generations lean on and support each other in this work? Because I know as an elder in the movement, I don't want to be put out with the recycling as if I have nothing else to offer to the movement. But from y'all's perspective, why don't we start with you, Ashley, in case you got to go quickly. What is the intergenerational nature of this work?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's imperative, right? Like the passing of knowledge in space, support and healing makes a difference in how we show up. And then also, right, it goes from top down to bottom up. So as an elder, what value add, what offerings can you give to make sure we don't bump our heads in the same way? Or what are the lessons learned? What is the path that you help to forge for us? And then we have new, fresh ideas from young leaders like Lola, right? So how do we incorporate that and make space for her to feel seen and heard and to be able to make impact? And so for us, I think that in a generational component of movement building is imperative for us to actualize a world that centers reproductive justice in our approach.
All right, I'm going to reverse order and go to Pony and then Lola next. Same question.
Yeah, I would say that I also feel like it's extremely symbolic of just our culture. And it's something like I always say I love being Black and I love everything about like being Black. And one of those things for me is I'm the grandkid that'll sit up with my grandparents for as long as they want to, and they'll tell me things about everything that they went through when they were growing up, and they'll ask me questions about why you kids do this, and we'll just talk, and it's so beautiful. And I think it's a component again of just like some of the most beautiful aspects of I think being Black. And so for me, I think that this work being so inclusive of various generations is just a testament of that. It's just the fact that like I feel like innately just don't believe in just letting one another go. I think it's so important to know where you've come from and know the work of your ancestors. And again, even like you being able to shout out the people who came before you, like that's so instrumental to the work that we're doing. So we're constantly remembering where we've come from, the fights that we've achieved, and also again the frameworks, right? The frameworks that guide us. So when we are envisioning a future, when we are crafting something new, when we are passing on to a next generation, there's something fruitful there that they can always lean on, and always like look forward to. I can, look back and say, wow, like if y'all were able to accomplish what y'all did during a completely different era in the US where like we have certain privileges that you all dreamed of, right? So if you were able to accomplish it, when I'm having a bad day, I'm like, it's okay. Like this work is not instant. This work is intergenerational. This work is forever. And so it's what I can do now that's going to impact someone next. And it's who I can look to for support and guidance and education when I do feel worried. So I feel like it's very symbiotic, and I'm grateful for that. And I think that's also why the reproductive justice framework and the reproductive justice movement is so one of one, and so entirely amazing at how it functions. And so, yeah.
Well, you remind me of a saying from the civil rights movement. Don't imagine that you're the entire chain of freedom, because the chain of freedom stretches back towards your ancestors and forward towards your descendants. So just make sure the chain doesn't break at your link. Lola Bell, would you like to answer the question about intergenerational work?
Yes, of course. Personally, for me, I wouldn't be here today without any of my elders. I wouldn't be here without them passing the torch and them giving me following in their footsteps and them giving me a lead to really help and see this world succeed and see me becoming who I am today. I have all these beautiful Black strong women in my corner because they were here before me, generations upon generations. And I just want to be able to help the following generation as I get older and as I become an elder later on in life. I want to be able to give that wisdom to who has ever given the wisdom to me.
Because I want to know, how do you handle the challenges of doing this work? Serving your people is hard, and sometimes they're not grateful. You rarely get a thank you for doing community engagement work. What toll does it take on you, and what do you do for yourself to address that?
So, doing community work for me is I love being a part of the community. I love helping others. It's just something that I have always done since I was little. Any type of community project I've always wanted to be a part of. And when, like you said, you don't even get a thank you, I really try just to really focus on myself and do that self care because although I know I didn't get that thank you, I know that I did something good at the end of the day. I know that I helped others at the end of the day. And I know that I somewhat made a change to someone's life hopefully. So that's why I believe that it's very important to take care of yourself. Although you're taking care of others, you want to make sure everyone else is good. It's important to make sure that self-care is very important.
Connie, can you get the same question? What's hard about doing this work and what toll does it take?
Yeah, I think it takes a big toll, and I always think about something that Erica Hart said. I think it was 2022 during another reproductive justice virtual event. And during 2022, I kind of hit a wall where I felt completely depleted in this work. I was a young person from Minnesota, from Minneapolis, and with the mixture of George Floyd and then Daunte Wright. Daunte Wright's protests and the death of Daunte Wright really took a toll on me. It broke my heart. And then just constantly, it's like the past of my young adult life and my young advocacy life, it was constantly being engulfed with, like seeing Black death, but also you grow up as a young person in the movement space and you're kind of told that if you do A, B, and C thing, you will get the change that you want, right? Like you're kind of sold this dream that like all you have to do, you just have to explain, you just have to, fight the fight, do the movement, advocate, lobby, and things will happen. And so when I saw everything that happened and we were advocating and doing so much in Minnesota during George Floyd, I was like, okay, we sacrificed a lot, but like something good is gonna happen. And then when Daunte Wright happened, it felt like I was just heartbroken. And then during the Daunte Wright rallies, like I experienced getting arrested. And so it was just everything. Everything was really dark. And I just felt like I just don't know how to function in the movement space anymore because I felt like one, I was really terrified because experiencing being doxxed as a young Black girl is a lot. But I couldn't explain it. I just knew that I was in a really dark space where I didn't even want to talk to my family. And I remember being like, I need to step away from movement work because I have nothing to give to the space anymore. And I was like, and I feel like I'm really jaded and I'm really heartbroken and like, I don't know what I have to give. And so I was really like kind of pulling away, but not fully because everyone's checking in on you. And then there was this panel with Erica Hart, and she says, there's this myth that when you're healing, you need to heal in isolation. And it's not true. The point of community is that even when you feel like you don't have much to give to the movement, you're still a member of this community and you should still be here healing in community, healing around others. And it really like hit me so hard because I was like in this space where I wasn't really saying it out loud to anybody, but I was slowly pulling away where I was like slowly like I don't know. I don't know how to be myself. I don't know how to be passionate. I don't know how to be driven. Like I'm terrified for us and I'm heartbroken for us. And so hearing her say that, again, another Black person who had to like affirm me and call me in, even if she didn't know that she was directly speaking to me in my heart, I really just felt held when she said that. And I felt like, okay, and like I broke down and I was able to communicate and connect with so many of the different organizers and friends and people that I say are my community. And they really helped me get through that, including Girls for Gender Equity, an organization that's so near and dear to my heart. So I say to young people in this space, this work isn't easy. And I don't want us to romanticize it and think, again, like you said, like this is not just one person's job. This is not just one person's work. One person didn't get us here. It's generations of effort and work. And also within that generation, it's generation of joy and like supporting one another and rest. And so when you do feel like you need a moment, you need to step back, like it's okay to step back, but it's not okay to step away from community and completely like isolate yourself. So I think for me, that's what I really learned. I learned to cherish the relationship with my sisters and my best friends and my mom and laugh and cry when I need to around community, even when it feels hard and even when I feel like I need to be strong for everybody and I don't want them to see me crying. I am the eldest daughter. So it was learning to be vulnerable, and learning to be seriously be a part of community, not feel like I'm only in community to give, but I'm also here to receive, and to be held. So that's my advice, and that's how I think I've learned to cope since 2022, and it's been good.
That's very Ubuntu of you because we are, I am because we are. And you have to keep that in your head when you do this work. You're not doing this in isolation. You're serving your community so that your community can be there for you too. Analysis. Ashley, are you still with us? What's hard about doing the work and what are the challenges and the toll it takes on you? I'm not hearing Ashley. She may have had to go back to testifying at the Capitol. So why don't we go on, and if Ashley comes back, we'll catch her. Let me go back to Lola. Lola Bell.
Yes.
What do Black girls and gender expansive youth need in order to take care of ourselves? And particularly, how do we avoid performing respectability, showing up in an inauthentic way while we do this work?
So, something that's always been told to me is the way you carry yourself and the people you hang around with, those are the people, that's the way that you show yourself. And I think without showing out in a, that you said, important to show respect and show that you care and making sure that you know that you want to be a part of the good. And even though I feel like everyone has a heart for it, but sometimes they may not show it in the way that they wanted to. So I think it's hard to really show, especially people my age, they may show it in a certain way with all the different things that we have to use now. But I think it's just trying to be respectable with it, making sure that you're respecting those elders, respecting everything that you do, the way you lead, the way you follow, the way you carry yourself is just the person that you are and how you want people to perceive you.
I believe that how we do the work is as important as the work that we do, because it's a testament to our values and our vision. So let me go back to Pani. Again, how do we avoid performing respectability politics? And what do Black youth need in order to take care of ourselves?
I think how we avoid respectability politics, which is truly so hard. I think something that I've recently been kind of saying to myself is that we are crafting the next generation. We are crafting what our work world is going to look like, what the expectations around how we show up, in certain spaces is going to look like. Even though at this moment, it doesn't necessarily feel like that's the future that we're crafting, we are. And I say that to say, because I recently had somebody who was older say, so how's your generation going to do it in the future? Because like y'all love to like go to a new job. Like y'all are all about finding jobs that suit your soul and your spirit. And I was like, honestly, I feel like the world is going to adjust for this generation because the world adjusted for the last couple of generations. I don't see people hunting and gathering anymore. Like, so for me, that's kind of how I look at it. I'm like, they'll adjust. And so I think with that, I just say be authentic I think that Black folks have made so much strides in being allowed to be ourselves. Like when you think about laws around hair, Black hair in the workplace, we're just seeing those being passed. But it took strides for Black people to get to a point where like our hair is acceptable. You see like companies endorsing like who we are, our aesthetic. So I like to say that respectability politics, of course, be respectful of the environments that you're in. I think it is really important, again, when we're talking about intergenerational work, to know your audience and know who you're engaging with. Certain things I would not come into my grandma's house and say, or I wouldn't I wouldn't pull up and act. However, my grandmother loves me authentically as myself. And I'm like, girl, like that's how I talk to my grandma. I'm like, girl, what's up? And I'm sure that's not how she talked to her grandma. But there's this push and pull where it's be yourself, allow people to love you, and when you're genuine, they generally tend to accept it. But also like know where you are. So yeah, so that's what I would say. And as far as I think us taking care of ourselves, I think that was the second half of the question.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say again, like right now, I'm in an era where I'm so big on what community truly means and how beautiful it is that we do have community. I think especially existing in a very individualistic society where oftentimes we're made to feel that like every single thing is us or nothing. If we don't get it together, if we aren't perfect, if we can't succeed, we have nothing. There's a huge privilege in having family, friends, loved ones, an organizing community. There's a huge privilege in that. And so I really do encourage people to like one bask in it and like start learning to like truly, truly appreciate it, and appreciate some of those dynamics and chosen families. And also like, I guess I would say like learn rest, like learn when you've had your limits. And one of my mentors would always say, if you know that the car is going to crash, start decelling before you crash.
Right.
So if you know you're about to hit a wall, because you live in your body for a while, you start knowing like I haven't slept, I've been working, I've been doing this, I haven't ate enough. You start knowing that like something's gonna happen soon. Start decelling. Start, you know what? I need to eat. I've been working on this project a lot. I need a moment. So definitely like take care of yourself and be vocal with your community.
Well, you remind me of the fact that I did a training on my calling in process. And in the training, one of these Black women said, I received so many microaggressions and instances of racism in my job, even though I've been here 7 years. And I don't want to be the angry Black woman, but I also don't want to give them a pass on this racism. And it feels like calling in might be practicing respectability politics. And so I asked her, I said, who are you inside? And she said, well, inside I'm filled with love. I said, well, then isn't that your authentic self, not the angry Black woman? And you can hold people accountable with love as well as anger. It's a choice that you get to make. So I'm gonna go back to I'm sorry, I'm about to lose my mind because I've got a senior moment. Lola Bell. Lola Bell, sometimes when we show up, it'll be sometimes uncomfortable for other people. But that's part of the work and part of the person. How do you handle that?
So when I show up, I know that sometimes I'm in a room with a lot of people who do not look like me. That has been something that I've struggled with my entire life. I went to predominantly white schools my entire life. So I've always been a part of the mix where there wasn't a lot of kids who looked like me. I didn't have a lot of professors or educators who looked like me at all. I think I had my first Black teacher when I was in high school and I was a junior or senior. But when I show up, I know that sometimes I feel like I have to work 10 times as hard as everybody else in the room. And it's a struggle for sure. But I think at the end of the day, I know that I I know that I have enough self-love and people around me love me enough for I can succeed and I can get that degree at the end of the day. I can accomplish all the things that I need to accomplish. I know that I can see myself in the future as a future midwife, helping women who look like me, although they may not, like other people who don't look like them, don't want to help them. I'll be there to help them because they deserve all the love and care. So, yeah.
All right. And so that helps you bring joy to the movement because Tony K told us to make the revolution irresistible. And so
Yes.
Does that work for you?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me go back to Ashley. We know the concept of healing justice, that we can do this work and achieve healing for ourselves, our families, and our community. What does healing justice mean to you?
What did you mean,
I'm
me
sorry.
or Ashley?
I asked for Ashley, but I meant you, Pawnee. I'm sorry.
No,
It wasn't a way to check in to see if Ashley was back.
I was like, maybe she's back too. Um, for me, healing justice, oh, that's such a big one. I would honestly say that I think healing justice is the foundation of Black joy and Black liberation. I think that it's really difficult for us to kind of do all of this structural work that is important without centering our healing, because so many of us are have generations of trauma that's been built up, that we're processing, that we're breaking through. And I think that if we aren't careful to learn how to heal ourselves or learn how to unpack some of those traumas, even with all of the work that we do, we'll end up being like our oppressors, or we'll end up oppressing ourselves, or even, in a more intra level, or friends, communities, children. And you see that a lot happen, like where folks do all of this work, but still how they engage maybe with their family members or themselves, what they think of themselves isn't always the best. And it's because like we're still carrying so much of that trauma. So I feel like healing justice is truly the glue of all of this work that we're doing. I think that we're actively simultaneously, I should say, we're simultaneously trying to change systems. We're simultaneously trying to liberate us and the next generation. But we're also trying to heal our past. We're trying to heal ourselves and heal those like that came before us. And that's another, I think, beautiful component of the intergenerational nature of this work that we do. It's because like there's so much that we learn from the older generation, but also I think young people do a lot to teach us about our own healing. And I see that as like an oldest sister. My youngest sister is like 11 years old and she goes to therapy. Like, and she is so calm and she is so confident and she's just that girl. Like everything about her is that girl. You're not gonna move her. And it's like so wild to me because I'm like, when I was your age, I was so anxious. I was so afraid. I was so like I was questioning everything in my head. I like didn't want to speak up. And here you are, like you walk into a room and you speak when you want to, and you have all rights, and you have people that'll protect you to allow you to speak to who you want to and when you want to. And so there's so much beauty in that like I look at it and I'm like, wow, like what can I learn from my sister who's 11, who's not necessarily actively teaching me, but just by existing, I see that. And I've heard that from my elders. Like I've heard, folks come to a workshop that I'm facilitating and be like, that thing that you talked about, like something happened when I was 15, or wow, I really want to unpack this, or I need to call my daughter. Like I didn't even realize that this is how, younger people are thinking. So again, that's the beauty of, I think, the intergenerational work that we're doing, is that it also is really grounded in healing justice. So that's, I think, what I would say that I would define that as.
Okay. You keep bringing up trauma, and I think sometimes trauma keeps us from acting like our best selves. It can drive the call out culture. It can make us very cannibalistic because I think we're afraid to be vulnerable. We don't have a good sense of who we can trust. Maybe we expect people to reciprocate what we're giving out, or we're fearful of being rejected. Sometimes we don't even have the skills to call on people to help us, or to invest or trust people. And sometimes we don't want to look at ourselves honestly and deal with our own internalized contradictions caused by our trauma. And sometimes we over identify with emotions as if our emotions define us, and not being self determining beyond what has happened to us, or only seeing things through a victim lens and performing roles that are expected of us. And so these are the ways that I've seen trauma show up into the movement. And so, Lola, can we go to you and talk about healing justice?
Yes, injustice. I personally, I think it's a framework. It just identifies who I don't say identify as a person, but it identifies a lot of trauma for sure, of what Pawnee was saying. Pawnee was saying, and for sure, I just want to healing justice is just it's an impact because it has to do with a ton of trauma. Trauma is something that a lot of Black and brown women carry with them from when they're young, from until they're older. Elders have trauma. It just it's just always going to be a part of their lives for sure. And I think trauma is a huge key in it for sure. The way Pawnee was saying that her younger sister is very much that girl. She is confident in herself. I have learned to grow up in a confident household always because it's just a household full of women, always to be yourself and always to be who you want to be and strive for who you want to strive to be, and always to don't let anyone push you around because they may try to push you around for the way that you look like, but you need to be confident in yourself. And although you may have all this trauma, you may have all this backlash or whatever from people, you always need to be able confident in yourself and whatever you need to do. So just making sure you're good with yourself is honestly what I would say.
Yeah, again, go back to that authenticity. You never have to lie about who you are. Okay. Are there any events that you'd like to shout out and tell people about? I know that IBBG is having a reproductive justice summit in 2025. Let me check in and see if Ashley is back yet. I don't hear anything, so I assume that she's still testifying at the Capitol. I also want to tell people about Sister Songs Conference. Let's talk about sex, baby. This is the conference they have every couple of years. This year is going to be August 21st to 24th in Washington, D.C., in the nation's capital. Usually it's about 1,000 women of color, a lot of Black women coming together to talk about reproductive justice. So I want to urge people to go to sistersong.net to register and learn about it. We never turn anybody away because of their inability to pay. So come on and hang out with us and stuff. Are there events that you know about, Little Bell, that you'd like to tell us about?
Any events? I know there's event with Afro Omaha. It's a cultural event, but to me, I think it's such an amazing event, and I love going to it. It's an African Fashion Week, and it just shows so much confidence in Black women, Black men, just Black people in general, and I just love going to it. So much Black joy, and I just love to see Black joy. So for sure, African Fashion Week, and I believe it's April 20th.
Well, before I go back, I want to ask you, what is so special and different and challenging growing up as a Black person in Nebraska?
Growing up in Nebraska, it was challenging for sure. I moved to Nebraska when I was 4 years old, so Nebraska is all I know. But for me, growing up, there was a lot of challenges. I was a very quiet and shy kid growing up. But when I was around my family, I was excited, I was joyous, I was all the things in the book. But growing up in schools, and I didn't see a lot of kids that looked like me. I remember in my kindergarten class, there was probably like 6 Black kids, and only 3 of us graduated with each other by the time of 8th grade. I think it's just for me, I thought Nebraska, you have to find your people. I know I found a lot of Black experiences, Black groups, and be able to be a part of those things that I can find myself and I can share with other people, like African Fashion Week, like being able to be a part of IB Black Girl events. Those things are just dear and near to me because when Black communities can come together, I feel like it's a celebration. It shouldn't ever have to be something that's sad or a mourning. It's a celebration. So anytime I see Black joy, it's a celebration for me.
Thank you. I know I'm from the South, and I don't think often of Black people in the Midwest. And so that's why I don't throw in that question. Now, Pawnee, Are there any events that you want to shout out about? And then we're going to close asking about your Black Girl Freedom Dream. But Pani, are there events?
Yeah, so the Louisiana Foundation Against Sexual Assault is having an Advocates of Color conference. So that's from February 27th to the 29th. I will be there leading a workshop. So I know it's short notice, but if you are in Louisiana, definitely go to LaFasa's website, sign up for the conference, and come through. So yeah.
Okay. I want to do a little bit of humble brag on myself. On March 5th, I'm going to be inducted into the Women's Hall of Fame, the National Women's Hall of Fame. But that's not the big news. The big news is that Serena Williams is getting inducted with me. So I get to meet Serena Williams, and I'm going to do my best not to fall all over her and scare her security to death. So that's a pretty big event in my life upcoming. But what is your Black Girl Freedom Dream? I'm talking to you, Bonnie.
Okay. My Black Girl Freedom Dream is that Black girls get to be authentically themselves, get to exist in a society and in communities and environments that uplift them, that support them, that celebrate them, that Black girls are thriving, and that Black girls know that they have a whole sea of people who love them and who are willing to uplift them when they feel like they're down. That is my dream for Black girls.
And let's go to Lola Bell. What is your Black Girl Freedom Dream?
My Black Girl Freedom Dream is to see little Black girls when they grow up, they want to say that I want to be just like her. She's thriving, she's a success, she got her degrees. I want to be able to see every little Black girl to really, if they have a dream, I want them to complete it. I want to be able to help them. I want to be a part of the generation that has a ton and ton of success. I want that dream. I want that. It does, because I believe that every little Black girl and every girl who looks like me, every girl who's even my age now, I just want them to be able to see someone who looks like them and say, I know that I can become that. Even though they may not see it a lot, they see one person and that just inspires them just to do their very best.
Well, that echoes one of my motivations for getting into the work 54 years ago, because I wanted to create a world where what happened to me didn't happen to any other Black girls. Childhood sexual abuse, teen pregnancy through incest, sterilization. So that's what drew me to doing movement work, because activism is the art of making your life matter and making sure that what happens to you, other people understand and can prevent it in the future. Are there any final words y'all would like to offer in terms of what's your dreams? What kind of things that you'd like to see addressed in the future? Along on this journey. I'm gonna stay with you, Lola Bell, since you're up on my camera right now.
Any last words I would say is I just want every Black girl to be happy. I just want them to have joy, to not feel like they have to struggle all the time, to feel like they have the right to feel that they belong in every single space that they enter into. And when they enter to that space, that they're confident and they are, because every Black girl is they're one of a kind, and it's very special to me that I just want to be able to give advice to any of those girls, because growing up, I didn't have a lot of people who looked like me in my schools. So I want them to be able to have people for sure.
Thank you. Same question.
So much, Loretta. Oh my, I just want to say, just in case y'all out there watching, she told us to call her Loretta. So everybody be like, how dare you? Listen, I feel uncomfortable. But thank you so much for moderating and just being in this space, and then just for all the work that you've always done. I've been looking up to you since I learned about reproductive justice, and it's just incredible every time I get to be in the same space as you. So I'm just grateful for that. And just continuing, I would just say that I pray and hope and fight for a future where every Black girl, Black gender nonconforming youth, Black woman has autonomy over their bodies, and has choice over their decisions. And I think that's the big one, just that we are able to thrive completely, as I said before, and we are able to conquer and abolish sexual violence, and we're able to abolish racial violence and economic violence, and just all of the violent acts and natures that exist within capitalism and white supremacy, are able to lives and have generations that are trauma free. So yeah, that's my last statements. Thank y'all so much, and everybody that put this together. Thank you all so much.
Well,
Yes,
thank you. I want to close talking about reproductive justice futurism. Since we're now in the 30th year of the creation of reproductive justice, what I've been turning my attention to is all of these genetic and reproductive technologies that are coming about, and questioning whether or not these technologies will be used to continue the same old racial inequalities and social injustices, or will they be used to actually build a better world for people? And I'm not so sure that's going to happen, because when I see these ads for designer babies, I don't see any black or brown babies on those ads. It's almost as if there's a desire to craft a more whiter future, a future of, blonde-eyed, blonde hair, blue-eyed girls and boys and stuff. And so we sometimes get so preoccupied with debating the issues of the day, like abortion politics, we're not paying a sufficient attention to the issues of the future. But I do like the fact that Afrofuturists are looking at these issues, and that's where I think reproductive justice needs to go. And so I've coined the concept reproductive justice futurism, to really look at all of these genetic and reproductive technologies and ask, what does it mean for us as Black people? Or are we even envisioned at being around in the future? And shouldn't we be participating in that conversation right now? So that's my summary. I think we're almost out of time. I need someone to give me a time check to see how much time we have left. I'm trying to find it in the chat. Well, I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank, uh, uh, I'm sorry, Lola Bell and Pani and Ashley for being our panelists today. And it's been an honor to be here with y'all. And again, trust Black women. We are good to go. Thank y'all very much.
That was so amazing. And I just want to echo the absolute fangirl over Loretta and all of the panelists. That panel was so powerful. It reminded us that the fight to advocate for the bodily autonomy and justice for birthing people is intergenerational, it is forever, it is national, it is international. Whether we are talking about reproductive justice and bodily autonomy for birthing people, trans people, queer, gender nonconforming, and gender expansive people in Northampton, in Lincoln, in Brooklyn, in Minneapolis, in Nebraska, in Gaza, Palestine, everywhere. Once you get tired, take time, heal, heal in community. It is a lot to hold, but it is so incredible to hear. And as said in the panel, our Black ancestors, our queer and trans ancestors have been fighting for the autonomy of their bodies for generations. And it is our call to continue that fight for Black girls, femmes, and gender expansive youth. So thank you so much again to our wonderful panelists and our ASL interpreters. And also, today's giveaway winner is Brandy of Greensboro, North Carolina. Hey! Ooh, pretty graphic. Please join us again tomorrow at 3 p.m. EST for day 4 of Black Girl Freedom Week. Okay, gonna sign off now, but please take care. Happy Valentine's Day. And I hope you all feel the love and joy of this work from that panel. I know I do. Thank you.